Well, hello there, and welcome to the Total Woman Show. I am delighted to be with you today. This is your talk show host, Dr. Barbara Young, and I am so delighted today. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned because we've got a hot topic for you today. I'd like to introduce you to my co-host today, Miss Jodi Tucker, Executive Leadership Coach from Canada, Mr. Shaun Booker, President, CEO, founder of Maximizing Your Magnificence, and she's also a writer and producer herself. And last but not least, my new BFF. Well, they're all my BFFs. But this is Desiree Doubrox, who's founder, CEO of An Empowered Woman. She also is author, writer, producer of her own television show called Let's Talk Success. And today we're going to talk success. So, Jodi, we are on it today. Let me tell you, let's do it.
Why not? She's ready.
We are really talking today about a real serious topic. Broken, but not unbroken. And so, how to overcome tragedy and loss. This is a big topic today, and the reason why I chose this topic because not only just here in the United States, but globally, there are tragedies, there are things that are happening, people who have losses. We here in the United States had Louisiana, the state has just had a natural disaster that many people are homeless as a result of a terrible flood. Here in California, the state of California, we had fires that destroyed many people's homes, that they've been living in for years. And, I was talking to someone in the store the other day, and I said, well, in our area, we've been so blessed that she lives up in the area where the fires were, but it did not touch her home. But I said, we are really, really, really fortunate but in the sense of, I don't know what is worse, a flood or a fire. Both are disasters.
Yes. It's a loss.
And they're a loss. And so one of the questions that I had from someone who wrote in about this show we're going to do today, how does one emotionally and mentally deal with serious tragedies? It could be the loss of a loved one. And then what about global disasters, genocide or famine? And so that was the question that was posed to me to sort of bring up today, how do we deal with that? Because overcoming tragedy, and many of us have had our own personal experiences of loss or disaster or tragedy in our lives. And so we're going to speak to you today about how to overcome these, because it happens to all of us. I once said this, that the rain rains on everybody, just as the sun shines on everybody. So no one is sacrosanct from having tragedy or loss and experiencing that. But it's not what happens to you, it's how you go through what happens to you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that. One of the things, I'm just going to lead out and say that when we think about our social conditioning really teaches us how to deal with tragedy and loss. It really does when we start to think about it. And there is a process that we're expected to follow. That process is denial, anger, repression. And I remember, and I'm sure you remember the author Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who talked about death and dying. And she actually revised her book. Are you aware that she had a revision? And it is now the 5 stages of dealing with catastrophic death. So she revised that and and updated how to handle grief. Also, as personally, my husband passed in October of last year. He had dementia, and it was several years that he suffered with this. So the loss in terms of him personally was sort of a gradual thing, because I was seeing him daily lose cognitive memory, being able to have a conversation. He developed a stuttering problem, and having to deal with that. But the loss of it, when he actually died, I had to make a choice. So I'm going to ask you to explore that, because we talk about choice. I could choose to be in a funk for years, because there are some people who actually die from a tragedy. They don't get over it. They don't just get up and get over it. But I found I had a choice. I could choose to be in this dark house in doom and gloom. And one of the things that really, really hurts is that there are a lot of people around you when it happens. There are people who are there for you. But when you go home after the burial, there's no one there. So you really do have to look inside and say, I'm making a choice to live life and to get a grip and keep on going. So anyway, I just wanted to share that little personal tidbit because, even Dr. Young, I've had my personal tragedy too with the loss of my husband. So, I just throw that out, personally, because we've all dealt with loss or tragedy. And so, I didn't get angry. Because, some people do.
Right.
I mean, I'm angry.
Absolutely.
Or they blame God. Why would God take my child?
Right.
I also lost my child, too. I lost my youngest daughter at age 30 from a brain aneurysm, and then aftermath of that, having to watch her go 9 days on life support. But something we had said in an earlier show about women in leadership, we were talking about leadership, but there's this thing called resiliency of the human spirit. So anyway.
Yes.
I think that you're right on when you say the fact that everybody handles it differently. Because everyone handles loss differently, and everyone handles different losses differently. Maybe the one, your daughter may have been may handle it one way, but the loss of your husband could have been handled a different way. So I think it is making a decision on, you can decide, believe it or not, I believe, you can make a decision on how you're going to handle it because of the fact that, and you have to decide, okay, me getting angry or me get into a funk or whatever it is, how is that going now to affect them? Is it going to do any good? Is it going to bring them back? Is it going to make them well? Is it going to do whatever it is? How is that going to affect them, the problem? And then, why? See, some people, immediately they hang on to that because that's the reason why now I can't work or why I can't function or why I'm dysfunctional. So, why are you so upset about that loss? I mean, we understand, again, no one's in the home because sometimes people for years and years and years, and that everything has changed. That's the reason why they stop taking care of themselves, their houses, their business. They just hang up that shingle, and they keep that story, that loss alive for years. So why are you doing that? Is that your excuse? Is that your reason? Or is that just the way you feel? And if it's the way you feel, then that can be corrected. You can make a decision, like you made a decision to alter your life. You make a decision to, hey, it's done. There's nothing I can do to bring it back. Maybe I should better serve them by, they'd want me to live a good, fulfilled life and do better. Be more sensitive and more helpful to other people. Because otherwise it's just that bag. I mean, people that you meet, every time you meet them, it's the same story. Well, because of this, because of that. And it's like, please take that down off your shoulders and put it down, and then see who you are. Because you may be like a wonderful person and have a wonderful life ahead of you. Just leave that behind. It's done. There's nothing you can do.
Well, we just recently met a young woman. Deshaun, you and I shared that, and it's just the fact that she was broken. Molested, denied, rejected by parents, rejected by grandparents. Definitely, I would epitomize that experience, another other than a death, but broken, but not unbroken, but how she survived and came back.
Absolutely.
But the one thing that what happens is she's still carrying it. She may not realize it, but she talks about it. And so, as if it's today.
It's a life thing. You're keeping it alive.
And so you keep it alive.
Exactly. You keep it alive.
Because
You'll never
words
have a chance
power.
to rest.
And you can speak life or you can speak death. And so a lot of times when you keep, the script keeps playing in your head and you keep speaking it, and so healing doesn't occur.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I want to jump in. I just actually finished a series on Bloom Where You're Planted. And Bloom Where You're Planted, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, creatively, right? How do you bloom when you're in that dark storm of your life? Most of the time, we want to wait until the dark storm has left. When I lost my mom just last year of a brain aneurysm and complications for that, she was in a vegetative state for 9 months. 9 months. And what I realized during that time, and I took this and I'm taking it and grabbing it from Dr. Young, she says incubate. I was in an incubator stage and I didn't know that at the time, right? And during that time, I began to go through all of the different emotions that you're talking about, and you're angry, you're upset, but I got very still, and I didn't like being still. And so out of that was birthed this message from the mess, right? And one of the things that I realized or was given is, number one, your mental state is a total sum of your emotional and intellectual state of mind to what you are actually witnessing in your external reality. So whatever your external reality is, you will continue to allow that to recur in your mind. You may not want to. You don't know how not to do that. So how does one do that? How did I move forward? I had to, first of all, decide to make a shifting. And for me, my shifting stands for, it's an acronym. I had to first surrender to what had happened. You got to surrender to the moment. Surrender to the fact that my mother's no longer here. You have to surrender to that. People don't know how to do that. So when we say, don't bring it with you, you don't know now how not to bring it with you. I had to be literally moved through Deshaun, surrender to what has happened. It hurt? Absolutely. And then I had to realize that I needed to go through my own healing to identify my new beginning, my new identity, right? Your new identity comes out of a loss. Totally.
Definitely.
It
'Cause
comes
when
out of
I
a
talked about
loss,
that,
right.
I talked about after my husband's death,
Right.
I went into this incubator state. And out of that, a new Barbara emerged.
Yes.
And it is so imperative that people do that. But a lot of times what happens, and I do know people have a tendency to start crowding themselves with activities and parties.
Get busy.
And of course, it was during the time of holiday season. And so my friends would say, well, don't you want to be around your friends and people who love you? We want to be there for you. I want to be alone, to regroup,
To heal.
to heal, to reemerge, because I knew something was being birthed again in me. It was renewing.
Absolutely.
And out of it came a celebration as opposed to this dark, you know.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the person that wrote in talks about how do you emotionally handle it. I mean, the answer is in the question. You have to, if we bring it back to the idea of being women in leadership, we're responsible for things. And here's this tragedy that we're trying to negotiate and navigate. And we still have all of this responsibility in front of us. We have a business, a family, we have things that require our attention and our best. And yet, here we have this thing that and I think that giving yourself the space, you talked about it in terms of incubation, but being able to honor the fact that there is emotion there and just say, whatever you need to feel it. If you try and shove that down and plow forward, it's going to come out in some other way.
Because it's still there.
That would be toxic.
It
And a
does.
lot of the
It does.
people that I see that carry that around and they can't put it
They
down,
do.
they're carrying it around because they didn't deal with it or allow enough expression of the pain that they were
Absolutely.
experiencing at that time. They didn't create space.
Yes.
So for me, when I think about the different things that, learning the hard way when my dad passed away, of not taking time, not taking, okay, that's done, I got to move on, I have a business, I have employees, I have a family, I need to get going. It took about 6 months for me to get physically ill to realize, wait a second, everything that's happening in my body is because I didn't deal with my emotional self. So I think, if you have a lot of responsibility and you have a tragedy come your way, nobody plans for that. Nobody ever plans for that.
No.
But what's necessary is to then create the space around yourself and to be honest with people. I need time.
Yes.
I need time. I need space. I need and whatever time you need. Be honest. I think I think we're hardest on ourselves maybe in that way. All right, I'll give it a week.
Yeah.
What if you need 6 months?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What if
Take
you
it.
need 6
Take it.
months to
Right.
incubate? I love that word.
Yes.
I
Yes.
need
Because
to
I better
somehow
trademark
come
that
out-
Yes,
word.
you have to. I've
It's a
taken
great
it.
word.
I've used it.
I said it
that
the other
day.
day,
I
and
said,
she said,
"Oh."
I'm using your
So I
word.
love,
you
that's
know.
truly what it is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that
Right.
resonates with me. I mean, everybody talks about transformation as this glorious, beautiful, glamorous thing. Oh my goodness, look at them! But
It's a
and
process.
we talk about the butterfly being the
Yeah, but that caterpillar
Oh.
stage.
but being in that process.
Yeah.
I kind of think maybe that butterfly's probably screaming its brains out inside of there. It's in the dark. It's alone. It doesn't know what's
And
happening.
it's
Everything
what
about
is
it
called
is changing.
caterpillar puffs. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't
a
think
mess.
I don't think transformation
we
is
do.
glamorous.
We're a mess.
We're a
We're
mess.
really a mess.
Yeah.
We're
And
a
until
mess.
you get to realize that, you're a
Absolutely.
mess, and you got to work through that mess,
Right.
incubate,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
then only then can you transform and become this butterfly.
Yes.
And I wish I'd had someone
Yes.
to say to me, "You're supposed to be a mess right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're supposed to
Gave you
not be
permission.
okay."
They give you permission.
They gave you
Right.
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
give
Right.
myself that
Self-permission.
permission
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everyone
As
else
the-
has
as
their
The
own.
week goes on.
Yeah,
as the
way,
week goes
right?
on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love what you say, and I often coach this. It's the first thing I say, right? Because we're energy, right? We're energy
That's
energy
right.
beings,
Right.
right?
That's right.
And so I always say, acknowledge your emotion, whatever
Yeah.
you're in. If
Whatever
it's
it
a
is.
lower emotion,
Yeah.
acknowledge it. Be there with that lower emotion.
And the other thing
Yeah,
is to
and
take
then
whatever
replace it.
whatever action you need to do to process that emotion. I'm not talking about dysfunctional behavior,
Right,
but whatever
right.
healthy thing that you
Healthy.
need to do to process that emotion, you should do that.
Right.
If it means you need to sleep, you need to nap. If it means you need to throw up, if
right.
it means that you just need to cry.
If I
and
need to
cry
watch reality
and
TV
cry and
every
cry.
day like I did, I just
Yeah.
watched reality TV
Yes.
and
You
escaped.
It was your
Yeah.
I was
escape.
like,
It was
these
your-
people are crazy, but it was something that moved me
That's
along.
your mind. Now, that's
Right?
another, that's
It
another
gave me a
tip
movement.
that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross talks about is that laughter.
Yeah.
Find
Yeah.
something funny.
Yeah.
You know,
And lighten.
to, you know,
Laughing.
that lighten up.
Yeah.
You know, and
Right.
you think about it, most people just aren't funny. I mean, they're just so serious.
Well, it's hard to find things that are funny nowadays.
to be
Some are just
serious.
stupid. That's
You know,
funny.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
That's funny, I
lighten
guess.
up.
Yeah,
And
lighten
so,
up.
you know, I always
Yes.
thought I was real serious. This is a little side note.
Uh-huh.
And people told me, Dr. Young, you're really funny. And I'm like, really? I said, yeah, you really are funny. And I'm like, oh, okay. Funny in the sense of funny or funny in the sense of humorous?
Right. Right. Which one? Right. I want to be humorous. We want to have that balance.
Yeah. But you know, like all that you're saying is like absolutely right on. But you know what the first thing is that so many people are in denial.
Yeah.
Oh,
You see, because there's a young lady
Who's
that
the
I
D
know.
word?
See,
That D
they-
word.
yeah, no, 'cause
Cake
you have to
syndrome.
acknowledge it. Because I have someone
Yeah.
that's all every conversation, not just with me, anybody. Oh, because my son passed. And again, I have two
Right.
sons.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you know,
Yeah, we
so
understand.
we're not there at
No,
all.
no.
But it doesn't come out with everybody. Not your postman, not your milkman, not your coffee, your Starbucks coffee. I mean, not everybody, because then you are human. And then she gave herself permission to deteriorate. My weight, my
Right.
look, my hair, my
Right.
skin,
To
everything
remain
is because. And
stuck.
this is 4 years ago.
Oh,
All right, so
wow.
everything, her business, everything now is as a result of that. So I mentioned it to her because how do you say, you know, again, the time is enough. Because again, who am I to say?
Yes.
But you know, in conversation, there's ways you can bring things around. Because she asked for help, she asked for this and that. I said, but do you realize that? I bet if you just left that story, you know, or left that someplace private and
Yes.
sacred, as he would be to you,
Yes.
then all that would change.
Yes.
All that would change.
Yes.
And
Sometimes-
but the thing is, I think
Yes.
but I think it's because again, it's that excuse she hung on, you know, grabbed her, put her cat on, and then also it's a crutch, becomes a crutch.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
the
It becomes a crutch,
It
you know,
does.
because
Yeah,
of it,
it
and
does.
it's a crutch,
It
and it's the
does.
reason why. So, and they're in denial, it's like so hard. If you realize and say, I'm doing this because this is how I'm healing,
Yes.
this is what I need to do,
Yeah.
this is the time that I need, and so
Right.
forth. But if you're in denial, it's even that, he says, what are you talking about? I said, oh my gosh, you don't even know, you know, oh goodness.
But I
You know,
can.
Yeah. Every conversation.
Exactly. I said,
Yeah.
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 They don't
You want to
in
just
denial.
say, get over it.
I know you
Don't
want
you
to.
want to say
You
that,
do.
don't you?
You know, I
And then
because
you say,
I always
"Oh,
like,
I
okay,
shouldn't
I
say
did
that's
that already.
blasphemous. That's
Right,
not.
right,
That's
right.
not.
Exactly. You
Right,
can't, you know,
right,
but you,
right.
but she had, so you have to not be in denial. You have to realize and accept and understand and appreciate you're still here.
You're still here.
Yeah.
You're still here. You know,
Yes,
like, okay,
yes.
yeah, all this happened, but all
I'm
those
broken,
fires and
but
all this.
not
Exactly.
unbroken.
But you're still here. God
Yes.
is giving you the gift of still being here, so you still have a message
Yes.
to send, and your work is not done.
Life
so
is
so
for
the
the
answer
living.
is yes
Exactly.
and.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and
yes,
what's
yes,
next?
yes,
Right.
yes.
Even
Right.
large-scale disaster, yes, this happened. Our community
Yes.
is devastated. It's horrific.
I lost
Yes.
everything.
And
Yes.
You're still alive.
And
I
You're still
always
healthy.
believe
You weren't
that.
hurt.
Right.
And
Out
now
of
you
that,
Right.
Yeah,
What do I
good will
have?
come.
Yeah.
What do I have?
Out of it, in
You gotta
terms
look
of
for
our
the
faith
good,
and
yeah.
the resiliency of the human spirit,
Yeah.
you have to look at it that all things work together
That's for
good.
good. That's
We
right.
not be able to see it.
Yes.
You'll
But
never
it
know.
it may take years.
And
for
we
that to
don't
happen.
have to know.
Absolutely.
Or
It's
they
not-
need to know
I mean,
basis.
it needs,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Personally, that may
Right.
not happen.
You
But
just need to
But
know that life
there's
goes
one
on.
aspect that I'm going to throw out to you guys because as we were talking, there's another loss, and we don't really talk about it very much. When we talk about broken but not unbroken, and this may fit in and it may not, but it is when a person retires.
Yes.
That is a loss, particularly for men, a lot of men and women, because your whole identity has been tied into what you do.
Yes.
Your purpose.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so I know that many people have retired and they just go downhill. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, people die. A lot of people
I
pass.
think we're a little bit crazy.
A little bit.
They're all over the place because they're trying to find the next thing to do.
It's so what again? It's a loss in the sense you made the choice because, and sometimes people have been retired. I mean, it's a I remember a case in point where a woman was asked to leave because she was at the age she wasn't ready
Yeah,
to
that's
leave, and so it devastated her. So that was a loss, and how she dealt with that spiraled her downward instead of pushing up, upward. I never retired. I re-careered. That's another word.
That's a good word.
I
Re-career.
Now, it wasn't about retiring. It was about re-careering.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
What's
the
Act
solution
2
for
of your
that?
life? What's
Exactly.
Act
It's the
3 of
next
your
act.
life?
Yes.
Right.
So I think
right.
I'm in Act 3, but that's okay. I think there's an Act 4.
Yes, it's mixed act
Yeah,
if you want.
an Act 4.
Yes.
10
I'm
act
looking
show.
forward to that.
Good.
But I guess as we're talking and sharing too, so much is within your own control.
That's what I was thinking about too.
It
It's like,
is.
what about the people that just lose themselves? I mean, I think we all have maybe a period of time, or even those outside things trigger, or maybe not. You just lose yourself.
Yes.
It's a loss. You manifest within yourself that you're unbroken for whatever reason. Maybe you can't, maybe you can't be who you want to be, or maybe you can't be the person, or you just can't accomplish what you accomplish, and you feel a loss in yourself, and that is like really tough because sometimes it's for a moment, and sometimes it's for a week, and for a lifetime. And it could be a result of outside things, again, a divorce or losing a job or things of that type, and then sometimes it's just you wake up one day and you just feel like, okay, where am I?
Yes.
Why am I?
Right.
Like, how am I?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like, who am I? Like, the question you tell people, ask people, like, who am I?
Who am I?
Yeah.
You bet there's a lot of people you ask that question and they didn't have the answer.
don't know how to answer it.
Yes.
No, exactly.
Yeah. It's predicated on an exterior situation,
Environment,
person, environment, right?
Yeah.
Right. Children.
Yeah.
Then when your children are grown up and they've left the nest,
Right.
you say,
So
who am I?
Exactly.
Right.
So many
right.
times you have to redefine ourselves, like you mentioned career or whatever, but if you're lost, then that's a tough one.
Well, I'm going to tell you one good exercise that I have advised people to do and come to me for help. Is I said, you've got to look in that mirror, and looking in the mirror, and you've got to redefine who you are. You've got to say who you are, and you've got to say, I'm broken but not unbroken.
Yes.
You actually have to say that. You have to admit, own it.
Yes.
Own it. Yes, this has happened to me.
Hear
I've
yourself,
gone through
right.
all of these atrocities probably.
Yes.
But remember, you're not alone because other people have gone through the same thing. But it's not about what happens to you. It's how you choose to deal with what happens to you. So I tell people, like, getting in that mirror and then using flashcards that say who you are.
You are.
I had them on the refrigerator. I went through a trial experience where people will try to define who you are, and if they can define who you are, they will control who you are.
Absolutely.
So you really do
Yes.
have to work at and
Yes.
keep reinforcing yourself. I'm broken, but not unbroken.
Right.
I've been through this, but I'm
Right.
still a conqueror through Christ Jesus.
Absolutely.
I am more
than a
than
conqueror.
enough.
That's
I
right.
am more than
That's
a glass
right.
half full.
That's
I am
right.
a full glass.
That's
I
right.
mean it. I mean,
Every
really.
day,
I mean, we
every
have
day
to
of my
say
life.
this every
Right.
day.
Right.
And sometimes,
Yes.
like, maybe people aren't as strong as you are, Sister Shaun.
Yes.
Maybe there are women that don't have that force,
Yes.
that bigger, that they're just a little bit, oh, I don't know.
Right.
But you have to work at it.
That's
and
right.
so I give them tools like flashcards. I had them in my car.
Yes.
I had them on my refrigerator. I had them on the microwave. I had them on my bathroom mirror. Yes, I did.
Yes,
Because
yes.
you have to work at it.
Exactly.
I mean, those
Exactly.
little, and I heard a new phrase last week, monkey chatter.
Oh,
the
yeah,
monkey
this
chatter
ear, in the
that
ear.
goes on
Yes,
in the ear.
yes,
Telling you you're not good enough.
Right,
Oh
right.
yeah, and still bringing all that ugly stuff. You were molested. You were raped. Everybody's gonna know it. Blah blah blah.
Right,
All this crap that goes on, and you have to have something to counter it.
That's right.
And you have to absolutely refuse to accept that. I have actually opened the car door and said,
Say,
out,
Yes.
get out.
Yes. I have
I'm
done that in
kidding
my
you.
house. I've
I'm
done it in
not
my
kidding.
house.
You
I've
guys
opened the
think I'm
front
kidding.
door and said the same thing. I've burned sage. Absolutely. Yes, because I have to take authority over this, not some
But the
other
voice is
thing,
not
some voices.
mine.
Right.
Right, yeah.
The voice
Absolutely.
is not mine. Because what happens when
Absolutely.
you're going through things, really tragic losses, and I'm sure, I bet you, there are people who have thought about suicide. I'm going to tell you this frankly. When I got the diagnosis that my husband had dementia, I went to a care group at the hospital. Around the room were all these individuals who were caregivers or they had their mates with them. And I looked around the room, and what I saw was dismayed me. What the doctor said was even worse. He said, I want to let you know, 44% of the caregivers die before the patients.
Really?
Wow.
It's that much stress.
Really?
Wow.
It's so stressful. And there were women there who didn't have what I had. I had a child care, adult daycare for my husband to go during the day to help him, you know, but there were people who couldn't afford a daycare. So they had to constantly be taking care of someone. Can you imagine, was it 24/7? And so they said, and the part about dementia or else Alzheimer's, there is no cure. And so I had to say to myself, I don't know if I can face this. Plus, it's long term.
Right.
He was just in the beginning. He was just in the beginning phases. So it could be years.
Right.
So I have to admit this. I drove home, and I heard that monkey chatter. Why don't you just run into the abutment? And because it just sounded like I had a bleak,
Right.
you know, a bleak future.
Right.
You know,
There's
I'm going to
no
be a
end.
caregiver, and
Heaven
there's
knows
no
long.
cure.
Right, there's
There's
no
no cure. It could go on forever. And
Right.
your life, all
Right.
your life,
That's right.
immediately your life is
And,
changed.
I'm
you know?
thinking, oh my. So that in itself, I made a choice.
Okay.
I choose this day to be the best wife I can be and to care for him because this is a covenant relationship. And so I am going to honor it and be the best wife I can be to him. So again, we talk about individual choice. Choices.
No, well, just like Oprah says, if you don't define yourself, somebody else will.
That's right.
You know,
That's
so if you don't make those
absolutely
decisions yourself,
Right.
then other people will start throwing things at you. You'll fall in this, you fall in that, you fall in that, and you end up nowhere besides alone and on your own. You know?
Right.
And women,
Right.
more than men, are more likely to take circumstantial kinds of, they're more likely to internalize the environment
Just
that they're
more
in.
emotional.
So we attribute it
Right.
to our character. I am not worthy. I am failing.
If I hear that,
I am
yes,
Women
brilliant.
tend to do that. We make those
We attack
characteristics
themselves, yeah.
of ourselves rather than
Goodness.
saying, this is the reality that I'm dealing with.
Exactly.
It is not me.
Exactly.
But we take that on and we tend to then
But
personify
you know
it.
what?
I agree.
And that then becomes something that we have to overcome
Right.
later, to shed that and to say, you know what? That wasn't me. That was a situation that I was in.
Yes.
What am I?
Right,
I am,
right.
I am a conqueror.
Yes.
I am strong.
Yes.
I am
a
resilient.
winner. Yes, yes.
You're so right
Circumstances
on.
have
Yeah.
no emotional attachment to them until
Yeah.
we apply it. It's
apply
just
it.
what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
What's happening is simply what's happening.
That's
Until
right.
we apply the emotion to it,
That's
then
right.
it becomes the baggage, right? It becomes
Exactly.
right.
But I'm going to tell you
Absolutely.
something. I think
Yeah.
men suffer a lot more than
We know.
we know. I have talked to a number of men, so I know the men out there that may be listening. We hear you
Yeah.
because I know that they go through this, but they have to be macho. They cannot share. They cannot tell homeboy or my pal that I am suffering emotionally because I had something happen to me traumatic. They can't even share that they might have been sexually molested. They can't share that. They can't share that to their mate. They can't share that to their buddy. They can't share that my mother was this or my dad. They don't. So that emotional baggage they carry and they react in some way. So I just wanted to say,
Yeah.
to close the show today, that we hear you. There are many things that we know that happen in your life. But we just talked about all of the things, the losses, the tragedies, they do occur. But there's one resource that you have. You have the Creator to reach up, and you have this inner spirit within you, because truly the human spirit is so resilient. And when you make up your mind that I am broken but not unbroken, and you say that out loud, I am broken but not unbroken, and I will survive. I will thrive, and I will be blessed and happy, joy. So I just want to thank my
love it.
co-host
Thank you.
today
Thank
for
you.
being on the
Yes,
show today.
yes.
I want to thank you, your viewers, for looking at us today. Yeah, we are a big group today. And I truly hope that you have benefited from the show today and been blessed by the things that we've said. These are our own statements. We don't make any apologies for them because these are uniquely our own stories and our own things to share with you. So I want to see you next week and have you tune in to another Total Woman show. You're invited to give your comments to me at Dr. B at tv@transformationsuccess.net. I may have that wrong, but I'm saying I may have it wrong. It's let me read it again because I always forget it. I want to make sure I make mistakes too. It's Dr. B at transformationsuccesstv.com.
There we go.
All right?
There you go.
Thank you for viewing us today. God bless you.